Is the future an endless, numbing scroll of personalized ghost, or a new frontier for the human spirit? Maybe a world where a movie's ending shifts like a dream to meet your own heart. How will our shared reality cope when the barrier between what is captured by light and what is calculated by logic finally vanishes? Welcome to the AI Brothers podcast. We are two brothers who have been discussing technology since we were kids and have decided to include you in these conversations.
We will cut through the noise to bring you data and research on the latest developments on AI. We are not interested in hype. We bring you the signal to keep you on top of this new technological and industrial revolution.
Because AI will permeate everything and be everywhere, initially as a layer on top of existing systems and then becoming itself the operating system. Today, we're moving past the AI is magic headline. We will be dissecting AI video generation, how it actually functions, the state of the art, and how it is fundamentally rewriting the economics of movies making. Let's start with the how. How can a machine generate a movie?
It's helpful to think of it as not a camera, but perhaps a probability artist. Most of what we see now is based on diffusion transformer. To understand this simply, imagine taking a beautiful photograph and slowly adding digital static or noise until it just becomes gray, fuzzy, and messy. Then you brute force the AI model to recreate the original image, thus training an AI video generator. The AI learns to find the mathematical relationship and reverse the process. It learns the specific cluster of noise.
Yeah, so that's excellent when we're talking about one image, but a video is not one image. It's 24 frames per second. So how does it stop turning that tree into some sort of a cat in a different frame? How do we keep that logic to make it an actual video?
Well, that's the actual temporal breakthrough. Early models treated video just like a flip book of separate images, which is why everything looked like a weird static dream, you know? Modern models use spatial temporal attention. They don't just look at the pixel in one frame, they look at the pixel across a 3D block of time. They actually calculate the trajectory of each pixel. If a ball is moving left to the right, the transformer architecture predicts the ball path across time before it even starts rendering the pixel. It creates a 4D world in a mathematical latent space and then projecting it into the screen.
Actually, now that as we're talking about these sort of this evolution and these capabilities, I would suggest people to just go back, because AI is moving so fast that I would suggest people to go back and look at how video generation looked just 2 years ago. And it was like a dream state. Everything was blurry, and it was like shaping up. The frames didn't align with each other. It felt almost like seeing a new consciousness forming. Obviously it's not, but that's how it felt like. And also, what's interesting about what you described about this technology is that image generation is mimicking physics. It's mimicking a physics engine without having that hard encoding of physics and math rules in them, isn't it?
Yes, precisely. It doesn't know gravity exists. It just have seen billions of videos of things falling, and it has calculated the downward movement is the more statistically probable outcome for an object.
Exactly. It's just so fascinating when you don't see it, when you just see it, but don't appreciate that distinction. So in like a traditional physics engine, like the Unreal Engine or Pixar render farm, you had to encode these hard physics laws. So you had to put a constant of for gravity. You have to define the mass, friction, collision. You had to define all of these things physically. So if a ball hits a wall, the computer has to run the specific equation to determine how it will bounce. But here it's different.
Not a single line of Newton's calculus is encoded. Instead, this model used diffusion transformers to predict the next batch of pixels based on what they learned during training, you know?
Exactly. And actually now researchers are trying to test these models to see if they actually understand physics. And they have a benchmark called Physics IQ. And what they found is that despite the fact that these models really can generate a jaw-dropping realism, they fail when you give them what's called an out of distribution scenario. So sort of kind of these scenarios that haven't been trained on, like if you put a kettlebell falling on a pillow or versus a piece of paper, because AI doesn't know the weight of the kettlebell and never seen the sort of this type of scenario, is just looks like a heavy object on a soft surface, and it just misses the sort of the true physics of it.
Yes, exactly. It's just intuitive physics. It's the same way a toddler knows a ball will fall if they drop it, even if they can't explain gravity, because it's statistical. Objects would sometimes phase through each other and disappear. But by late 2025, models like Sora 2 have scaling up the training data, essentially brute forcing a better understanding of cause and effect, you know?
And so that's actually the when you bring up the scaling up the data, it also highlight the potential limit of that. So if you're trying to simulate a complex fluid dynamic experiment for some crazy sci-fi film, you can't trust that statistical water to behave exactly like you would want it, like you would see a real water behaving.
For a movie, usually yes, because it only has to look right into the human eye. But for engineering, no. This is why the industry is moving toward hybrid pipelines. Studios might use a real physics engine to handle the bone, like the way a car flips, and then use generative models like video REPA to skin that motion with realistic textures, smoke, and lighting.
So yeah, so this is how they get around the fact that, you know, AI isn't able to really capture the true physics of things by creating this hybrid pipeline. Okay, now so we went through the definitions of how these machines work. Now let's talk about how this AI generation is impacting, you know, movie making, the movie business in general. We went a long way from the sloppy noodle videos that we had 2 years ago. Things have changed.
Yes, the landscape has kind of changed from foundational giants to more customized tools. You know, OpenAI, Sora, and Google View, they are the giants. They have a massive amount of compute, but they don't really have the data. They don't really understand filmmaking. They can produce the most breathtaking high fidelity physics, you know. But the industry is actually shifting toward more specialized AI video generation tools. tools that can offer more customization, like Alibaba. They released a tool called open source tool. They released it as an open source tool. They released 1.2.0 and 1.2.2 as open source, and the open source community picked it up and added the crazy amount of features like lip syncing, control net. They even added the native sound to this open source model.
Yeah, so that's exactly, I mean, whether it's in the open source space or the closed source proprietary models, in order to really make videos, you need control. You can't just sort of just depend on the prediction of whatever model, no matter how powerful it is. And what's called now that, video generator needs these, what's called control net. And as the name suggests, you just need control. Because, if you're making a movie, you just don't want just something beautiful. You need a specific scene. You need a character walking through a door and then moving towards a window. And if you just rely on a prompt, it would just give you all these options that you just can't control. So right now, what the control net allow is, let's say a director will be able to upload a stick figure sketch or a map to force the AI to follow a specific path. In 2025, this year, we actually started seeing the rise of these control net that actually correct the consistency problem. So that's sort of the core problem video making is, how do we make sure that when you want to prompt something, it makes it exactly what you want it. So now you can generate 2-minute sequences where the character's face, clothing, lighting in the room remain identical across the entire shot. And that was really the holy grail that was missing last year and that has been cracked this year. Again, things are moving really fast. Every year, things are different within the AI space.
What does this mean for the movie industry? For me, it looks like we are entering the age of democratization. It may take a while, 3 to 5 years, but we're gonna get there as the compute will be cheaper and it will be more available to artists, to movie makers. Currently, if you want to make a 10-second shot of a helicopter flying over a desert, you need a helicopter, a pilot, a permit. It's just too expensive. It costs $10,000, or more. Now, with the AI, you just can compute that with a fraction of the cost. It's still far more expensive doing real world video. You filming it in the real world. A $2 million movie will look like $100 million blockbuster. This is a democratization of the visual scale.
Actually, it's a good place to talk about something we were discussing just before starting to record. And you were telling me about the cost of compute, that you think it's still a bottleneck for this democratization. And I think it's important that people hear that, because you're the one super excited about AI. So whenever you're having these moments of sort of slowing down, I think people should hear that, because it's important.
Yeah, people don't realize how much compute is needed to create an image or a video on something like Gemini or Sora. It's actually really, really expensive, And for movie makers, if they really want to control what they are producing, the film they're actually doing, using control net, using specific special effects, they need to buy the GPU. They need to own the GPU, and it is really, really hard to acquire this GPU, especially because there is so much demand from other sectors like health or governments. Movie makers are still they're gonna be still struggling to buy these AI chips, the GPU. That's really the bottleneck for movie making. But gradually, in 5 or 10 years, as the AI chips will become a commodity, people gonna be more able to buy chips and create movies that are really well crafted. They customize using control nets, using advanced techniques. But it's gonna take a while for everyone, people like you and me, to create movies. But in the future, as other companies like more threads or Meta X will produce more, or even Alibaba will produce AI chips, they're gonna be able to really create well-crafted, tasty movies, movies that really can be blockbusters.
Yeah, I agree. As I think it's definitely something underappreciated, the cost of compute. And you were telling me that, a lot of times, people are probably using these, video generation like on Grok or on other apps, and they think, oh, this 5-second video was made so quickly and it's so easy. But you were telling me that if you'd wanted to do that, let's say on an open sourced model on your own machine, even with a good graphic card, with a good NVIDIA graphic card, it would still take, minutes to generate a few seconds of video. So I think this is something, when we hear about all the hype around sort of the democratization of video making, it's true that the prices are going down, but it's still not there, as you said. The other problem that we need to discuss is that, even if we get to that world where everybody can make a video, the problem is that it just becomes slop. It becomes boring. You're just surrounded by these AI generated videos, and at that stage, there's going to be a massive premium on human performance and actual original storytelling. And when let's talk a bit about the business of what's going on, and we can already see the deal flows in the industry suggesting the direction where this is going. So the industry is really looking to acquire the means of production, and what we're seeing is this sort of vertical AI integration. For example, there had been a recent deal from Lionsgate with Runway, where they're not just looking for generic tools. They want to train their own proprietary model on their proprietary data. So for instance, Lionsgate has this 20,000 title library, and they want to create what they would call a Lionsgate brain. So now if you're a director going to work with them, you have this model that captured the essence of Lionsgate. So you have this John Wick feel, or this Hunger Games feel within the model. So this is just, the brand becomes the cinematography, and that's where things are heading, at least from the deals in the industry.
Yes, it's a way to maintain brand consistency while slashing cost. The other advantage of this approach is that it creates licensed ecosystems. Major studios won't touch models trained on scrapped internet because of the copyright risk. Instead, they are building their own walled garden with their own data. Imagine how much data a company like Warner Bros. Has. Imagine the model that it can train.
Yeah. I mean, it's the problem of proprietary and open data. I think it hasn't been completely ironed out. We are seeing the beginning of lawsuits, but I think to protect themselves, major studios will definitely go to these sort of closed license ecosystem for themselves. Okay. Well, before we wrap, I think let's take some moment to talk about what all of this means. Um, and I feel as we're making these episodes, we find this recurrent theme as we are trying to understand the impact of AI. Um, I feel in a way we've reached to a point, or we're going to reach a point where the effort of creation, so the literal labor of building a set or a scene, has been reduced and made cheaper. So then the question becomes, where does the value move towards? What's the value of an image? And at this stage, the same way we were talking about the importance of agency in a previous episode, I think here we need to talk about the value of taste and meaning. And taste isn't something you can download. It's the synthesis of all your lived experience, your suffering, your specific cultural lens on the world. So in a way, AI is just a mirror of the collective average, the statistical, most likely beautiful image. But really, art lives in these unlikely choices, the friction, the wrong lightning that somehow feels right. Because in the end, a masterpiece isn't just a collection of pixels, it's a bridge between two human consciousness. And AI will just be the courier. So there's a long road and long path where agency, taste, meaning, experience is still going to be tremendously valuable.
I think it's a good way to end this episode, huh?
I agree. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning with us as much as we enjoyed learning with you. We wish you a good and productive day.